I just got back from Bickel Family Camp. My name is Anna Davis, but before I got married I was a Bickel, and I can trace my Bickel roots back 5 generations. And every 2 years we get together with my great-grandpa Fred and great-grandma Lydia's descendants, and that's what we call Bickel Family Camp. The theme verse for this year's camp was Matthew 18:14, which says, "In the same way your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should be lost." And we talked a lot about how faith is passed on from generation to generation. We talked about how passing the faith from generation to generation is a lot like a relay race, where the first generation has the baton and they already know this story about Jesus and they need to pass it on to the next generation. And so they bring up that baton and pass it off, and sometimes the baton gets dropped, but the key is to remember God's grace and pick it back up and keep passing it on, because none of us would be where we're at today if the generation before us had dropped the baton and not picked it back up. Another important thing to the Bickel family is making sure that everyone feels welcome. This past weekend there were over 150 people, so new people could have felt a little bit overwhelmed. Sean was one of those new people, my husband, and at the beginning of camp they called up all the new people to camp. And so up front they had Sean, my husband, one of my cousin's fiancés, and then a bunch of little kids that had been born since the last camp or the last couple camps, so 4, 5, 6-year-olds. And they gave them all these t-shirts that said, "Be nice to me, I'm new here," and gave them a marker and asked them to get signatures of all the people that they met while they were at Bickel Family Camp. And as you can see, Sean probably beat out all the little kids with his signatures by getting 90 or so. You know, you look at genealogies like the one in Genesis 5 and you wonder why it's there. It's just a list of names. But I look at my own family tree and I think I start to understand it a little bit. I had a relationship with my dad and my grandpa. I know how they influenced my life, but spending time at family camp and hearing all the stories of the people that I don't know very well or don't know at all or never had the chance to meet, I start to see how they influenced my life, and they are just as much a part of how I got to be where I am today. Sean and I are expecting our first child in January, and I spent part of this weekend totally overwhelmed by the idea that it's our turn to pass on the baton, and it's a big responsibility. It's a lot to take in. But then I started to look around at our family and the people that were around me and to support me and their experiences that they have to share. And I got really excited. I'm excited to bring a child into the Bickel family, to share all of the history that I have in the Bickel family, but more importantly, to bring them into God's family.